I forgot my phone at the restaurant. That one simple mistake saved my life and exposed a betrayal so deep it brought me to my knees. For 4 months, my own son had been poisoning me, watching me lose my senses, laughing as I stumbled through the fog of confusion he'd created, planning to steal a $120 million legacy built over 40 years. He thought I was dying. He had no idea this was just the beginning. What I did in those 5 days changed everything. But first, where in the world are you hearing this story? Drop your location in the comments below and stay with me, because what happened next will shock you. The Cabernet should have been magnificent. I lifted the glass to my nose. Harlan Estate, 1996, 96 points from Wine Spectator, $200 a bottle, and inhaled deeply. Nothing. Just air moving through my nostrils, empty and hollow where complex notes should have bloomed. "Mom, you okay?" Spencer leaned forward, concern etched across his face. My son, 37 years old, with his father's dark eyes and my stubborn jawline. "You look pale." I set the glass down carefully on the white tablecloth at the French Laundry, Napa Valley's crown jewel of fine dining. Around us, soft conversation hummed beneath crystal chandeliers. The dining room smelled like, well, I wouldn't know anymore, would I? "I'm fine, sweetheart." The lie came easily now. I'd been telling it for months. "Just tired." "You're more than tired." That was Holly, my daughter-in-law, draped in emerald silk that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. Gold bangles clinked on her wrist as she reached for her wine, a wine she could actually taste. "The dizzy spells are getting worse, Tammy. You nearly fainted at the board meeting last week." Had I? The memory felt slippery, like trying to hold water in my cupped palms. Time had started doing that lately, sliding away from me, leaving gaps I couldn't quite fill. "The doctor was very clear," Spencer continued, his voice gentle but firm. That's how he'd been talking to me lately. Like I was fragile, like I might shatter. "Age-related sensory degeneration. It happens, Mom. You're 65. Your body is giving out." I finished his sentence, the words bitter on a tongue that could barely taste bitterness anymore. "I know." Spencer and Holly exchanged a look. The kind of look married couples share when they've already discussed something in private, when they've made decisions. "We think it's time," Holly said softly, "for you to step back. Let Spencer take over the day-to-day operations at Rogers Heritage. You've earned your rest, Tammy. You've earned peace." Peace. The word should have sounded beautiful. Instead, it felt like defeat. 40 years. I'd spent 40 years building Rogers Heritage Winery from the ground up. My late husband Fred and I had started with 20 acres and a dream, back when Spencer was just a baby strapped to my chest while I walked the vineyard rows. We'd survived droughts, recessions, changing trends, corporate buyout attempts. We'd built something that mattered. And now my body was betraying me, taking away the very senses I needed to do the work I loved. I looked at Spencer, really looked at him. When had the soft-faced boy who used to help his father prune vines turned into this polished man in a tailored suit? When had his eyes developed that sharp, calculating gleam? "The power of attorney papers," he said quietly, pulling a leather folder from his briefcase. "Just sign them next week, Mom. That's all. Let me handle the business side while you focus on your health. You can still live at the estate, still be involved. But the pressure, the responsibility, let me carry that now." My hand trembled as I reached for my water glass. The tremor was real. They'd been getting worse. Some days I couldn't hold a wine glass without it shaking so badly I had to set it down. "I need to think about it," I said. "Mom, I said I need to think about it, Spencer." The sharpness in my voice surprised all three of us. Holly's eyes widened. Spencer sat back in his chair, jaw tight. "Of course," he said finally. "Take your time. We're here for you. Whatever you need." The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. I pushed my food around my plate. Duck à l'orange that I couldn't smell, couldn't fully taste, might as well have been cardboard. I smiled at the right moments, nodded when Spencer talked about expansion plans for the winery. pretended not to notice when Holly checked her phone under the table, her face illuminated by the screen's glow. By the time we finished dessert, some elaborate chocolate creation that looked beautiful and tasted like nothing, I just wanted to go home, to my big empty house on the estate where Fred's photos still watched me from every room, where I could stop pretending everything was fine. We said our goodbyes in the parking lot. Spencer hugged me, and I tried not to think about how automatic it felt, how his hand patted my back exactly 3 times, like he was checking off a box on some invisible list. "Drive safe, Mom," he said. "Call me when you get home?" "I will." I waited until their Tesla's taillights disappeared down the highway before I let my shoulders slump. The November night was cold, the kind of crisp autumn evening that used to smell like wood smoke and ripening grapes. Now it just smelled like air, empty air. I was halfway home, winding through dark vineyard roads I could drive blind, when I realized my phone. Damn it! I checked my purse anyway, hoping I was wrong. But no, I'd left it on the table at the restaurant, probably when Holly had distracted me asking about the winery's quarterly reports, making me reach for papers in my bag. I turned around, tires humming against asphalt. 20 minutes back the way I'd come. The French Laundry's parking lot was nearly empty now, just the staff cars and one refrigerated delivery truck around back. I parked and walked to the entrance, preparing my embarrassed smile for whichever server had to let the forgetful old woman back inside. But when I reached the door, it opened before I could knock. A young woman stood there, early 20s, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun and a name tag that read, Emily Chen, server. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking. "Mrs. Rogers," she breathed. "Thank God you came back. I'm sorry I left my... I know, your phone." She glanced over her shoulder into the darkened dining room, then stepped outside and closed the door behind her. "Mrs. Rogers, I need to talk to you, but not here. Can we go to your car?" Something in her voice made my skin prickle. "What's wrong?" "Please." Her dark eyes were wide, frightened. "I could lose my job for this, but I can't stay quiet. I can't." My heart began to pound, that old instinct that something was very, very wrong. "All right, my car." We walked across the parking lot in silence. Emily kept looking back at the restaurant, like she expected someone to come after us. When we reached my SUV, she finally spoke. "I need to show you something. The security footage from tonight, from the camera above your table." "Security footage? Why would I?" "Because of what your son did." The words hung in the cold night air between us. "What do you mean?" My voice came out whisper thin. Emily pulled out her phone with trembling hands. "I've been serving your family for 6 months now. Every Friday night, same table, same order. And I've noticed things. Little things that didn't make sense. Until tonight." She tapped her phone screen, and a video began to play. I watched myself on the small screen, watched the dinner from an hour ago from a bird's eye view. There was our table, Spencer and Holly and me, 3 figures in soft focus. The timestamp read 8:47 p.m. "This is when you went to the restroom," Emily said quietly. On screen, I stood up and walked away from the table. Spencer and Holly remained seated, talking. Normal. Everything looked normal. Then Spencer moved. He reached into his jacket, smooth, practiced, like he'd done it 100 times before, and pulled out a small glass vial, clear liquid inside, maybe an inch of it. His eyes scanned the dining room. No one watching. The nearest table was 20 feet away, engrossed in their own meal. Holly leaned forward, angling her body to block the view from the other side. And Spencer uncapped that vial with his thumb and poured it into my wine glass. All of it. Every drop. Into the Cabernet I'd been drinking all evening. The glass I'd return to and finish when I came back from the restroom. "No," I whispered. But the video kept playing. Spencer recapped the empty vial and slipped it back into his jacket. Holly straightened in her chair, reached for her own wine, took a delicate sip. They looked at each other and smiled. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 30 seconds later when I returned to the table. When I sat down and picked up my glass, the poisoned glass, and took a long drink. On screen, I grimaced slightly, set the glass down, said something about the wine tasting off, and Spencer, my son, my baby boy, the child I'd carried and nursed and loved with every fiber of my being. Spencer waited until I looked away. Then he hunched his shoulders, let his head wobble in a cruel mimicry of my tremor. His face twisted into an exaggerated expression of confusion, eyes glazed, mouth slack, mocking me. Holly saw it and laughed, silent on the video, but unmistakable. She covered her mouth with her hand, shoulders shaking with mirth. They laughed at me, at the woman I was becoming, at the confusion and weakness they were creating. The phone slipped from my fingers. I heard it clatter against the pavement, heard Emily say something. "Mrs. Rogers, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." But her voice sounded like it was coming from underwater, from very far away. My knees buckled. Emily caught me before I hit the ground, her young arms surprisingly strong around my shoulders. She held me upright while the parking lot spun and my stomach tried to climb up my throat. "He poisoned me," I heard myself say. The words didn't sound real. "My son poisoned me. I know. I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner, but I wasn't sure and I didn't have proof and—" Emily was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I've been watching him for weeks. Little things. The way he'd touch your glass when you weren't looking. The way he and his wife would smile at each other after you took a drink. But I couldn't prove anything until tonight. Tonight he got careless." She helped me to lean against the car. My legs felt like water. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. But this time it wasn't from whatever poison Spencer had been feeding me. This was shock. Pure, undiluted shock. "How long?" My voice cracked. "How long have you been watching?" 6 months, since the first time I served your family." Emily wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "Your son always seemed so attentive, so caring. But something felt wrong. The way he'd insist on pouring your wine. The way he'd steer conversations when you started talking about retirement. And you got worse every week. Paler, shakier. You stopped being able to smell the food. I'm a sommelier in training, Mrs. Rogers. I know what sensory loss looks like, and I know it doesn't happen that fast. Not naturally. The night air should have smelled like jasmine. The restaurant's gardens were famous for it. But I smelled nothing, just the absence where my senses used to live. What do I do? The question came out small, helpless. I hated how weak I sounded. But God, what was I supposed to do? My son was poisoning me. My son. "You can't drive like this," Emily said firmly. "You're in shock. Let me call you a cab. Or, do you have someone you can call? Someone you trust?" Someone I trust. The words echoed in my head. I'd trusted Spencer. I'd trusted him with my life, with my legacy, with everything I'd built. And he'd been slowly killing me. "I need my phone," I sighed. Emily picked it up from where it had fallen and pressed it into my hands. "What are you going to do?" One thought burned through the fog of betrayal and shock. One crystalline thought that cut through everything else. I had 5 days. The board meeting was Friday. Spencer had mentioned it at dinner. Routine quarterly review. All the major stakeholders would be there. If I did nothing, if I signed those power of attorney papers next week like Spencer wanted, he'd control everything. The winery, the vintage collection, the estate, all of it. And what would he do with it? What did a man who'd poison his own mother do with a $120 million wine empire? "I have 5 days," I said aloud. My voice was stronger now. The shock was crystallizing into something else. Something harder, colder. "The board meeting is Friday. That's when this ends." Emily's eyes widened. "Mrs. Rogers, what are you—" "I need to figure out what he's been giving me. I need to know why. I need to know who's helping him, because Spencer doesn't know anything about toxicology. Someone supplied him with whatever he's been using." I looked at Emily, really looked at her. "You said you could lose your job for showing me this." "I don't care about my job." "You should. You just saved my life." I squeezed her hand. "Can you send me that video? And any other footage you have of Spencer and Holly at that table?" "Any night. All the nights." "Of course, but Mrs. Rogers—" "Tammy. Call me Tammy." Tammy. She said my name carefully, like she was testing the weight of it. "What are you going to do?" I looked back at the restaurant, at the warm lights glowing in the windows, at the place where my son had poisoned me and laughed about it, where he'd mocked the woman who'd given him life. "I'm going to save everything my husband and I built," I said quietly, "even if I have to save it from our own son. How can I help?" I didn't have an answer yet, but standing in that parking lot, betrayal still fresh as an open wound, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. This ended Friday. 5 days to figure out what poison Spencer had used. 5 days to understand why he'd done it. 5 days to find whoever was helping him. 5 days to save 40 years of work from the person who should have been its greatest protector. 5 days to choose between being a mother and being a guardian of everything I'd built with Fred's memory beside me. "I'll call you," I told Emily. "Keep your phone on." "And Emily? Thank you. You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did." Her young face was fierce in the parking lot lights. "What he's doing, it's evil. You don't poison your own mother. You don't mock someone you're supposed to love. No, you don't. But Spencer had. And now he was going to learn what happened when you betrayed a Rogers." I drove home slowly, carefully, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The roads blurred with tears I wouldn't let fall until I was alone, until I was safe. The estate appeared around the final bend, 300 acres of vineyard rolling into darkness, the main house lit up on the hill like a beacon. Home. Fred and I had built this. We'd planted every vine, harvested every grape, survived every crisis, and I'd be damned if I'd let it die now. I pulled into the circular driveway and sat there for a long moment, engine ticking as it cooled. Through the living room windows, I could see Fred's photo on the mantel. Our wedding day, 1982. He was laughing at something I'd said, his hand on my cheek, his eyes full of the kind of love that only comes once in a lifetime. "Fred," I whispered to the darkness, "our son is trying to destroy us, and I don't know if I can stop him without losing him forever." The photo didn't answer. It never did. But I knew what Fred would say if he were here. He'd say, "Protect what matters, Tammy, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts." I got out of the car and walked toward the house, toward the 5 hardest days of my life. The game had changed. Spencer thought he was winning, thought his mother was too weak, too confused, too broken to fight back. He was about to learn he'd made a terrible mistake, because I wasn't dying. I was waking up, and I had 5 days to become the woman my son feared I'd never be again. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Spencer's hand reaching into his jacket, saw that vial, saw him pour poison into my wine with the casual ease of someone adding cream to coffee. At 2 a.m, I gave up pretending. I sat at Fred's old desk in the study, the room dark except for the amber glow of the lamp. Around me, 40 years of history watched from the walls, photos of harvests, awards, newspaper clippings yellowed with age. There was one photo I kept coming back to. Spencer at 10 years old, standing between Fred and me in the vineyard. His face was sunburned and smiling, dirt under his fingernails from helping us plant new rootstock. Fred's hand rested on his shoulder, my arm wrapped around his small waist. We looked happy. We were happy. When did that little boy turn into a man who could poison his own mother? I picked up my phone and pulled up Emily's video again. Watched it for the dozenth time, looking for something I'd missed. Some sign that this was all a terrible mistake. But no, there it was, clear as daylight. Spencer poisoning me, Spencer mocking me, Holly laughing. My hand hovered over Spencer's contact. I could call him right now, confront him, demand answers. But what would that accomplish? He'd deny it, make me think I was confused, that my failing senses were making me paranoid, and I'd have shown my hand before I understood the full picture. No, I needed information first. I needed to know exactly what he'd been giving me, and why, and who was helping him. Only then could I decide what to do. I pulled up another contact, Dr. Patricia Lynn. We'd gone to UC Davis together in the 80s, back when we were just two young women determined to break into the male-dominated world of wine chemistry. She'd gone into forensic toxicology instead. Now she ran a private lab in San Francisco that did contract work for law enforcement. My finger hesitated over the call button. It was 2 a.m. I pressed it anyway. She answered on the 4th ring, voice rough with sleep. "This better be life or death, Tammy." "It is." The rustiness vanished from her voice immediately. "What's wrong?" "I need you to analyze something for me. Tonight. Now. I can be at your lab in an hour." Silence. Then, "Does this have anything to do with why you stopped returning my calls 6 months ago?" 6 months. That's when the symptoms had started. When I'd begun pulling away from friends, embarrassed by my failing senses. When Spencer had started visiting more often, bringing those vitamin bottles. "For your health, Mom." "Everything," I said. "Patricia, I think someone's been poisoning me." "Jesus Christ." I heard rustling, movement. "Who?" "I'll tell you when I see you. Can you do this?" "I'll meet you at the lab in 45 minutes. Bring whatever samples you have." I went to the kitchen first. The vitamin bottles Spencer had given me sat cheerfully on the counter, 3 of them, different formulas. Nature's Strength, the labels proclaimed. Zinc Support Formula. For optimal health. I opened one and shook a few capsules into my palm. They looked innocent enough. White and blue, professionally manufactured. I dropped them into a small Ziploc bag. Next, I went upstairs to my bathroom. In the hamper, I found the blouse I'd worn to dinner, cream silk with a wine stain on the sleeve where I'd been clumsy with my glass. The glass Spencer had poisoned. I cut away the stained fabric with scissors and sealed it in another bag. Finally, I went to Spencer's old bedroom. He and Holly kept a few things here for their frequent visits. Clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. I told myself I was being thorough, that this was about finding the truth. But really, I was hoping I wouldn't find anything. Hoping this was all some terrible misunderstanding. I found the vials in his bathroom cabinet, hidden behind a box of bandages. 6 of them. Small glass bottles, each about the size of my thumb. Clear liquid inside, and embossed on each cap. Vint Global, Industrial Solutions Division. Sample batch A47, not for resale. My hands shook as I held them. Not vitamins. Industrial chemicals. Spencer had been feeding me industrial chemicals. I took 1 vial and left everything else exactly as I'd found it. If Spencer noticed it was missing, he'd know I was on to him. But I needed Patricia to analyze the actual poison, not just what it had contaminated. The drive to San Francisco passed in a blur. Highway 29 through the darkness, past sleeping vineyards and shuttered wineries. I kept my speed exactly at the limit, my hands steady on the wheel. If a cop pulled me over, if anything delayed me. But nothing did. At 2:47 a.m., I pulled into the parking garage beneath Patricia's lab building. She was waiting by the elevator, still wearing pajama pants under her lab coat. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled into a messy bun. When she saw my face, she pulled me into a hug. "Tell me," she said. So I did. Everything. The video, the symptoms, the vials. By the time I finished, we were in her lab, all stainless steel and humming equipment, and she was staring at me with an expression somewhere between horror and rage. "Your son," she said flatly. "Your son did this to you. I need you to tell me what this is. What's in those vials? What he's been doing to me." My voice cracked. "And Patricia, I need to know if it's permanent." She squeezed my shoulder once, then got to work. I watched her move through the lab with practiced efficiency, drawing samples, loading equipment, typing commands into computers. The chromatography machine hummed to life. She explained what she was doing, but the technical details washed over me. All I could think about was Spencer's hands, his smile, the way he'd hugged me goodbye in the parking lot. "This will take about 6 hours," Patricia said finally. "The initial scan should give us compounds. Then I'll need to run specific tests to confirm concentrations and interactions. You should go home, get some rest. I'll call you the second I have results." "I can't go home." The words came out sharper than I intended. "I can't sit in that house knowing what he did, what he's planning. I'll wait here." Patricia looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "There's a couch in my office. Try to sleep, Tammy. You're going to need your strength for whatever comes next." I didn't sleep. I sat on Patricia's couch and watched the sky lighten through her office window. San Francisco spread out below, the city waking up one light at a time. Somewhere out there, Spencer and Holly were in their apartment, sleeping peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams poisoners dream. My phone buzzed. A text from Spencer. "Morning, Mom. Just checking in. How are you feeling today? Let me know if you need anything." The casual cruelty of it made my stomach turn. Let me know if you need anything. Like he was a devoted son. Like he hadn't spent last night poisoning me. I typed back, "Feeling tired, might stay in bed today." His response came immediately. "Good idea. Rest is important. Love you. Love you." I deleted the text thread before I could throw my phone across the room. At 9:23 a.m., Patricia opened her office door. Her face was grim. "Tell me," I said. She sat down across from me, a manila folder in her hands. "It's bad, Tammy. Worse than I thought." My heart hammered against my ribs. "How bad?" "Your son's been giving you a 2-compound cocktail. The first is a zinc chelator, a binding agent that attaches to zinc molecules in your bloodstream and flushes them out through your kidneys. Zinc is essential for taste and smell function. Without it, those senses shut down. Slowly, progressively. That explains the sensory loss. That's just the first compound." Patricia opened the folder and showed me a printout covered in chemical formulas I couldn't begin to understand. "The second is something I've never seen used on a human being before. It's called Z47. It's a proprietary compound manufactured by Vint Global's pharmaceutical division for industrial wine testing." Vint Global. The name meant nothing to me. "What does it do?" "It's designed to block specific sulfite receptors in the olfactory system. In lab settings, they use it to test how wines will smell to people with sulfite sensitivities. But Tammy," she leaned forward, her expression intense, "this compound was never meant for human consumption. It's industrial grade. The concentration in these vials is 50 times what they'd use in a controlled study." "What does that mean? What's it doing to me?" "It's systematically destroying the nerve endings in your nasal passages that detect wine compounds. Oak, tannins, fruit notes, all the complex flavors you've spent 40 years learning to identify. Z47 is specifically targeting your palate, Tammy. Someone designed this poison to destroy a winemaker." The room tilted. I gripped the arm of the couch. "Can it be reversed?" Patricia was quiet for a moment too long. "Patricia, can it be reversed?" "I don't know," she admitted. "There's no literature on Z47 exposure in humans, but the zinc deficiency that we can treat. Stop the exposure, supplement with high-dose zinc, chelation therapy to clear the binding agents from your system. Your taste and smell should start returning within a few weeks. Maybe not to full capacity, but significantly. And the nerve damage from the Z47? Nerve tissue can regenerate, but it's slow. And at your age, with this level of exposure," she shook her head. "I'm sorry. I can't promise anything." I sat back, processing. Spencer hadn't just been poisoning me. He'd been surgically destroying the one sense that defined my entire life's work. This wasn't murder. This was something more personal, more cruel. This was erasure. "There's something else," Patricia said. She pulled out another sheet. "I found traces of the zinc chelator in the vitamin capsules. But the Z47? That wasn't in the pills. He's been delivering that some other way. How does Spencer usually... The wine. The realization hit me like a physical blow. He always pours my wine at dinner, always insists on it. Says it's tradition, honoring Dad's memory. And I let him because it made me feel like we still had something, like we were still a family. He's been dosing you every time you eat together. The vitamin pills maintain baseline zinc depletion, but the Z47, that's targeted, specific. He's been watching you lose your ability to taste wine, Tammy, watching it happen glass by glass, meal by meal, and enjoying it. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. This wasn't just about money or control. Spencer had turned my life's passion into the weapon that would destroy me. How long has this been going on? I asked. Patricia consulted her notes. Based on the concentration levels in your blood work from last month, you sent me those results, remember? You were worried about the dizziness? I'd estimate 4 to 5 months of consistent exposure, maybe longer at lower doses. 5 months. I counted backward. That would be late June, right after the quarterly board meeting where I'd announced I was thinking about succession planning, where I'd mentioned that maybe, in a few years, I'd start transitioning leadership. Spencer hadn't wanted to wait a few years. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Spencer. Hey, Mom. I was thinking we should have dinner this week. Wednesday? I'll pick up that wine you like from Palisades. We can talk about the estate plans. The wine I like. The wine I can't taste anymore, thanks to him. I showed Patricia the text. Her jaw tightened. What are you going to do? Good question. What was I going to do? I could go to the police right now. Show them the evidence, the video, the lab results. Have Spencer arrested. My son, in handcuffs, in a jail cell. The thought made my chest ache so badly I could barely breathe. But if I did nothing, if I signed those papers he wanted, what then? What was his endgame? I need to know what he's planning, I said slowly. Why go through all this? If he just wants control of the winery, there are easier ways. Legal ways. He could have waited for me to actually retire. Or he could have just asked. We could have had a conversation about the future, about his role, about what he wanted, unless what he wanted wasn't just the winery. Patricia, can you run a full background check for me? Financial records, credit history, everything? On Spencer? On Spencer, and on Holly, and on any business entities they're connected to, especially anything related to Vint Global. She nodded. I have a friend at FinCEN who owes me a favor. Give me until this afternoon. Thank you. I stood, my legs unsteady. I need to go home. Spencer's coming for dinner Wednesday. I need to be ready. Tammy, Patricia caught my arm. Be careful. If he realizes you know, he won't. I pulled her into a hug. You've given me the ammunition I need. Now I just need to figure out how to use it. I made it as far as the parking garage before I broke down. Sitting in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, I finally let myself cry. Great, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. For the son I'd lost. For the family I'd thought we were. For Fred, who'd loved Spencer so much and would be devastated to see what our boy had become. When the tears finally stopped, I felt hollowed out. Empty, but also strangely clear. I couldn't do this alone. I scrolled through my contacts and found the number I needed. My daughter, Madeline, 34 years old, living in New York City, working as a sommelier at one of Manhattan's finest restaurants. We talked every Sunday, but I hadn't told her about the symptoms. Hadn't wanted to worry her. Now I needed her. She answered on the second ring. Mom? It's Saturday morning. Are you okay? Just hearing her voice made my throat tight. Maddie, baby, I need you to come home. A pause. What's wrong? Are you sick? Did something happen? I can't explain over the phone, but I need you here. Please, can you get on a plane today? Mom, you're scaring me. I'm scared too, I admitted. That's why I need you. Maddie, it's about Spencer. Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice was careful. What about Spencer? How did I say this? How did I tell one child that the other was trying to kill me? He's not who we think he is, and I need help figuring out what to do about it. I'll be on the next flight out, Madeline said immediately. Don't do anything until I get there. Promise me. I promise. Mom, whatever it is, we'll fix it, okay? We'll fix it together. But some things, I was learning, couldn't be fixed. Some betrayals ran too deep. I drove home through the late morning sunshine. Napa Valley was beautiful this time of year, the vines turning gold and amber, tourists streaming through tasting rooms, the valley alive with the promise of harvest. Fred and I used to drive these roads together, planning, dreaming, building our legacy one season at a time. I'm going to save it, Fred, I whispered to the empty car. Whatever it takes, I'm going to save what we built, even if saving it meant destroying our son. The estate appeared around the bend, and I saw Spencer's Tesla in the driveway. He was here, at my house, uninvited. I parked and walked toward the front door, my heart pounding. Through the window, I could see him in the living room, standing in front of Fred's photo. When I opened the door, he turned with a smile. "Hey, Mom, sorry to drop by unannounced. I was in the area and thought I'd check on you. You sounded so tired in your text this morning." He was good. God, he was good. The concern on his face looked so real. "I'm fine," I said. My voice came out steady, calm. "Just a bad night." "Well, I brought you something." He held up a bag. "That vitamin supplement Dr. Morrison recommended. The one that's supposed to help with the sensory issues. I picked up a fresh bottle. More poison." He was standing in my house in front of his father's photograph, offering me more poison. "Thank you, sweetheart," I heard myself say. "That's very thoughtful." Spencer's smile widened. "Anything for you, Mom. You know that." Yes, I was beginning to understand exactly what he'd do for me. And in 3 days, when Madeline arrived, I'd start doing exactly what I needed to do for him. One way or another, this ended Friday. Madeline arrived Sunday evening, her rental car pulling into the estate just as the sun began its descent behind the western hills. I watched from the porch as she climbed out, my daughter with Fred's auburn hair and my determined jaw. She'd always been the steady one, the thoughtful one. While Spencer chased excitement and status, Madeline had quietly built a career she loved. She took one look at my face and pulled me into her arms. "Tell me everything," she said. We sat in Fred's study, the same room where I'd spent that sleepless night just days ago. I showed her the video Emily had sent, watched her face go pale, then red, then carefully blank as Spencer poured poison into my wine glass. When he mocked me, when Holly laughed, Madeline's hands clenched into fists. "That son of a bitch," she whispered. "Maddie? No, no, Mom. Don't defend him." She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "Do you know?" She stopped, took a breath. 3 months ago, Spencer called me, asked to borrow $500,000, said it was for a business opportunity. Wouldn't give me details. I said no, and he hung up on me. Haven't heard from him since, except for generic holiday texts. $500,000, another piece of the puzzle. "Patricia's running his financial records," I said. "She should have something by tomorrow." "Good." Madeline turned back to me, and I saw tears tracking down her cheeks. "Mom, I should have known something was wrong. I should have pushed harder when you started canceling our phone calls, when you stopped asking about the restaurant. I thought you were just getting older, slowing down. But it wasn't that at all, was it? How could you have known I didn't know? Because I'm your daughter. Because I should have paid attention." She wiped her eyes roughly. "What's the plan?" I told her about the board meeting Friday, about the power of attorney papers Spencer wanted me to sign. If I sign them, he gets control of everything. The winery, the estate, the vintage collection, all of it. So we go to the police. Now. Tonight. Show them the video, the lab results, everything. And say what? That my son has been poisoning me? Maddie, he'll say I'm confused, suffering from dementia, that the sensory loss has made me paranoid. And who would the police believe? a 65-year-old woman with documented health problems or a successful businessman with a spotless record. They'd believe the evidence. Would they? I pulled out my phone and showed her Spencer's texts, the concerned messages, the offers to help. Look at this paper trail. He's been building a narrative for months. The worried son caring for his declining mother. Even the vitamins he's been giving me. Patricia found traces of the chelator, but Spencer could claim the manufacturer contaminated them. That he had no idea. Madeline's jaw tightened. So what do? We find out what he's really planning, and then we stop him with evidence so overwhelming he can't talk his way out of it. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Call me. Now. Found something big. I put it on speaker so Madeline could hear. Tell me you have good news, I said when Patricia answered. Define good. Patricia's voice was grim. Spencer's in debt. Serious debt. Casino markers from Las Vegas, Reno, Atlantic City. Credit card cash advances. Private loans from some very unpleasant people. Total, $3.2 million. The number hit like a physical blow. $3 million? Due in 60 days. The casinos have already filed collection actions. But here's where it gets interesting. Starting 4 months ago, Spencer began receiving wire transfers from a shell company called Heritage Solutions, LLC. Small amounts at first. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. Then bigger. Last month he got $50,000. Who owns Heritage Solutions? Madeline asked. That took some digging. The company's registered in Delaware, but the beneficial owner is... Patricia paused. Have you ever heard of a man named Lawrence Garrett? The name exploded in my memory like a bomb. Lawrence Garrett, I repeated slowly. Fred's old business partner. What? Madeline stared at me. Dad had a business partner? 25 years ago, before you were born. I sat down heavily. Lawrence and Fred started Rogers Heritage together, but they had different visions. Fred wanted quality, tradition, limited production. Lawrence wanted to scale up, cut costs, sell cheap wine in grocery stores. They fought about it for 2 years. Finally, Fred bought him out for $2.5 million. And this Lawrence guy just accepted that? No. I remembered that last meeting in this very room. Lawrence's face twisted with rage. He told Fred he'd regret it, that he'd destroy everything we built. Fred laughed it off, said Lawrence was just bitter about being wrong. That time would prove we'd made the right choice. Looks like Lawrence held a grudge, Patricia said. He founded Vint Global 3 years after Fred bought him out. Started as a budget wine company, then expanded into industrial chemicals. Wine production supplies, cleaning solutions, that kind of thing. The company's worth about $40 million now. Wait, Madeline's eyes had gone sharp. Vint Global. That's the same company that makes the Z47 compound, the poison. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Lawrence has been supplying Spencer, I said. Lawrence provided the poison, probably offered to help with Spencer's debts in exchange for what? What would Lawrence want after all these years? My phone buzzed again. Emily Chen. A text with a photo attached. Mrs. Rogers. I was going through old reservation records. Look who had dinner at the French Laundry the same night as your family, every Friday for the past 3 months. The photo showed the restaurant's reservation system. Table 8, right next to where we always sat at table 12. The name on the reservation made my blood run cold. Lawrence Garrett, Charlatan. He was watching, I whispered. Every Friday night, Lawrence was sitting right there, watching Spencer poison me. That's not all, Patricia said. I pulled Vint Global's corporate filings. 6 months ago, they filed preliminary paperwork for a new product line called Heritage Home Solutions. Bathroom cleaners, industrial solvents, drain openers. Want to guess what brand name they're planning to launch under? I already knew. Somehow I already knew. Rogers. Rogers Clean, Rogers Fresh, Rogers Home Care. Patricia's voice was tight with anger. They're planning to rebrand your winery as a cleaning supply company, turn 40 years of prestige into toilet bowl cleaner, and based on the timeline, they need controlling interest in Rogers Heritage to do it. which Spencer will have the second you sign those papers. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. Lawrence didn't just want revenge. He wanted to erase everything Fred had built, everything we'd accomplished, turn our legacy into a joke. And Spencer, my son, was helping him do it. "There's more," Patricia continued. "I found email exchanges between Spencer and Lawrence going back 8 months. Spencer was complaining about how you wouldn't retire, how you were holding on to control. Lawrence offered a solution, made it sound reasonable, help Spencer secure his inheritance, give him the freedom to modernize the business. But the subtext is clear. They've been planning this for months." "Does Spencer know about the rebrand?" Madeline asked. "About turning the winery into a cleaning company?" "Based on the emails? Yes. He knows everything, and he doesn't care. He needs the money to clear his debts, and Lawrence is offering him a way out. Once you sign the papers, Lawrence buys Roger's heritage from Spencer for $30 million. Spencer clears his debts and walks away rich. Lawrence gets his revenge, and your legacy becomes bathroom chemicals." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the desk. "Mom?" Madeline's hand found my shoulder. "Mom, breathe." I forced air into my lungs. Then another breath. Another. "Friday," I said. My voice came out steady, cold. "The board meeting is Friday morning. Spencer's going to push me to sign the papers there, in front of witnesses, so it's harder to contest later." "Then we stop him before then," Madeline said. "We go to the police tonight. Show them everything." No, an idea was forming. Terrible, risky, but it might be the only way to expose the full scope of what Spencer and Lawrence had planned. "Patricia, how long would it take you to prepare a full toxicology report? Something that would hold up in court?" "I can have it done by Thursday." "Good. And Detective Torres, do you still have contacts at SFPD?" "James Torres retired last year, but yes. He does private investigation work now. Why?" "Because I need him Friday morning, at the board meeting, as a witness." Madeline's eyes widened. "Mom, what are you planning?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Saw the fear and determination in her face. The same expression Fred used to get when we faced down corporate raiders trying to buy us out. When we survived the 2008 recession. When we fought for every acre, every barrel, every bottle. "I'm planning to give Spencer exactly what he wants," I said. "The board meeting, the audience, the perfect moment to take control. And when he reaches for it, when he thinks he's won, I'm going to show everyone exactly what he did to get there." "That's dangerous," Patricia warned. "If he suspects, he won't, because I'm going to keep playing the dying old woman. I'm going to be weak, confused, desperate, everything he expects me to be. And on Friday, I'm going to prove to every board member, every stakeholder, every witness in that room that my son tried to poison me to steal my life's work." "And Lawrence Garrett?" Madeline asked. "Lawrence will be there too. I'm going to invite him personally. Tell him I'm finally ready to accept his help, just like I offered all those years ago. That I want him to be part of Roger's Heritage's future." I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. He won't be able to resist. The chance to watch me sign away everything Fred built, with him right there to witness it. His ego won't let him stay away. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. "Tammy, this could backfire. If they realize what you're doing, then I'll have lost everything anyway. But if I do nothing, if I run to the police without ironclad proof, Spencer will find a way to spin it. Make me look senile. Claim the sensory loss has affected my judgment. I'll be fighting his lawyers and his narrative for years. The winery will be tied up in litigation. The vintage collection will deteriorate. Everything Fred and I built will crumble while we argue in court. So instead, you're going to trap him in front of witnesses." "Not trap. Expose. There's a difference." I pulled out my phone. "I have 4 days to prepare. 4 days to make Spencer so confident that he gets careless. And on Friday morning, the truth comes out. All of it. In a way nobody can ignore or explain away." Madeline squeezed my hand. "What do you need me to do?" "Play your part. Be the concerned daughter who thinks Mom should retire. Spencer trusts you more than he trusts me right now. If you support the power of attorney, he'll think he's won completely. I have to pretend to side with him? Madeline's face twisted. Mom, I don't know if I can. You can, because you're Fred's daughter, and we protect what matters, no matter what it costs us. The next 3 days were the hardest of my life. Spencer came by Monday with the fresh vitamin bottle, more poison, cheerfully offered. I took it with shaking hands and thanked him. Let him pour me wine at dinner. Watched him watch me as I failed to taste it properly. Saw the satisfaction in his eyes. Mom, he said gently, I really think we should move up the signing. You're getting worse. What if something happens before Friday? No. I made my voice firm, then let it waver. Friday, at the board meeting. I want everyone to know this was my choice. That I'm doing this because I trust you, Spencer, not because I'm incompetent. His hand covered mine. Of course, Mom. Whatever you want, I'm just worried about you. Madeline arrived for dinner Tuesday. She played her part perfectly. The sympathetic daughter gently encouraging me to let go. To rest. To trust Spencer to carry on the legacy. I watched my son's shoulders relax. Watched him exchange small, triumphant looks with Holly. He thought he'd won. Wednesday, I called Lawrence Garrett. He answered with barely concealed surprise. Tammy Rogers, it's been a long time. Too long, I said, injecting warmth into my voice I didn't feel. Lawrence, I've been thinking about Fred, about the offer I made after he died. I know you never responded to my letters, and I understand why. There was too much history, too much hurt. But I'm not going to be running Rogers Heritage much longer, and I don't want to pass into retirement knowing Fred's oldest friend isn't part of the family anymore. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm listening. The board meeting is Friday morning. I'm going to sign the power of attorney papers, officially hand control to Spencer. But I'd like you there, as my guest, as a gesture of reconciliation. Whatever disagreements you and Fred had, they died with him. You built this winery too, Lawrence. You should be there to see what it's become. More silence. I could practically hear him calculating, weighing whether this was genuine or a trap. Why now? He finally asked. Because I'm 65 years old. I can't taste my own wine anymore. And I'm tired of old grudges. Because Fred would want this. Because... I let my voice break slightly. Because I don't have many chances left to make things right. All right, he said. I'll be there. I hung up and allowed myself one small smile. The trap was set. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep again. I sat in Fred's study with a bottle of the 2017 vintage, the last wine he'd made before the accident. I still couldn't taste it properly, but I could remember what it had tasted like. Black cherry and tobacco, leather and thyme. I hope I'm doing the right thing, I whispered to his photograph. I hope you'd understand. Fred's smile looked sad in the lamplight. Or maybe that was just my imagination. My phone buzzed. Patricia. Toxicology report complete. Detective Torres is briefed and ready. Are you sure about this? I typed back. I'm sure. See you tomorrow. Then another text from Emily. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you, Mrs. Rogers. You're stronger than they know. And finally, Madeline. I love you, Mom. We're going to end this. I sat in the darkness and thought about legacy, about what we leave behind. Fred had left me this winery, these vineyards, this beautiful empire built on passion and integrity. Spencer was trying to turn it into toilet cleaner. Tomorrow, I'd show the world who my son really was, and it was going to destroy us both. Friday dawned cold and clear. I dressed carefully in the charcoal suit I'd worn to Fred's funeral, armor disguised as mourning clothes. My hands shook as I fastened the buttons, but not from the poison anymore. From anticipation, from fear, from the terrible certainty that today would change everything. Madeline drove us to the Rogers Heritage corporate office in downtown Napa. The building was modest, 3 stories of stone and glass overlooking the valley. Fred had insisted on keeping it small, personal. You ready? Madeline asked as we pulled into the parking lot. I saw Spencer's Tesla already there, and a silver Mercedes I didn't recognize but knew must be Lawrence's. No, I admitted, but we're doing this anyway. The conference room on the third floor had floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the vineyards below. The board members were already assembled, 6 of them, representing our major stakeholders and long-term investors. They'd known Fred. They'd watched Spencer grow up. They had no idea what they were about to witness. Spencer stood at the head of the table, the power of attorney papers arranged neatly in front of him. Holly sat at his right, dripping in designer labels. And there, standing by the window with a satisfied smile, was Lawrence Garrett. He looked older than I remembered, silver hair, lines around his eyes, but the calculating intelligence was the same. He nodded to me as I entered. "Tammy, thank you for the invitation. Lawrence, I'm glad you could make it." I let him take my hand, let him feel it trembling. "Means a lot to have you here." Spencer helped me to my seat with exaggerated care. "How are you feeling, Mom?" "Tired," I said truthfully, "but ready. Let's get this done." He smiled. "Of course. Board members, thank you all for coming. As you know, my mother has been experiencing significant health challenges over the past several months. Age-related sensory degeneration, chronic dizziness, cognitive difficulties. It's been hard to watch. Murmurs of sympathy from around the table. After much discussion, Spencer continued, Mom has decided it's time to step back from active management of Rogers Heritage. She's asked me to take on full operational control through a comprehensive power of attorney. This will allow her to rest and focus on her health while ensuring the winery continues to thrive under family leadership. He gestured to the papers. "Everything's in order. Mom, whenever you're ready." This was it, the moment Spencer had been working toward for months. The culmination of poison and lies and betrayal. I reached for the pen with a shaking hand, and then the conference room door opened. Detective James Torres stepped inside, Patricia Lynn right behind him. 2 uniformed officers followed. Spencer's face went pale. "What's going on?" "Mr. Spencer Rogers," Torres said, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years in law enforcement. "I'm placing you under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and criminal poisoning." The room erupted. Spencer lunged toward me. "Mom, I don't know what—" "You're confused. The medications." "I'm not confused," I said. My voice came out stronger than it had in months. "I know exactly what you did, Spencer. And so does everyone else in this room now." I nodded to Patricia. She moved to the head of the table and opened her laptop. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "my name is Dr. Patricia Lynn, forensic toxicologist. For the past 5 days, I've been analyzing compounds found in Mrs. Rogers' bloodstream. What I'm about to show you is disturbing, but I assure you, every piece of evidence has been thoroughly verified." The video played on the large screen behind her. Emily's security footage from the French Laundry, Spencer reaching into his jacket, the vial, the poison going into my wine glass, Holly shielding him, and then, God, this was the part that broke my heart every time, Spencer mocking me, his cruel parody of my trembling hands. Someone gasped. One of the board members stood abruptly and walked out. Spencer was shaking his head frantically. "That's not— I was putting vitamins in her wine, supplements the doctor recommended." "The doctor recommended industrial zinc chelators and experimental nerve agents?" Patricia's voice was ice. "Because that's what you've been giving her. Compounds specifically designed to destroy a winemaker's palate. Compounds manufactured by Vint Global's pharmaceutical division." All eyes turned to Lawrence. He'd gone very still, his face carefully blank. "I have no idea what—" "Don't!" I stood up and my voice didn't shake at all anymore. "Don't lie, Lawrence. Not here. Not now. We have the emails, the wire transfers, Heritage Solutions LLC, the whole plan to rebrand Rogers Heritage as a cleaning supply company." I pulled out my phone and displayed the mock-ups Spencer had in his briefcase. Rogers Clean, Rogers Fresh. 40 years of my life turned into toilet bowl chemicals. That was always the plan, wasn't it? You'd get your revenge on Fred by destroying everything he built. and Spencer would get enough money to clear his $3.2 million in gambling debts. Spencer slumped in his chair. Holly had started crying. "You used my son," I said to Lawrence. "Found him when he was desperate and turned him into a weapon against his own family." "Why?" "Because Fred chose quality over profit 25 years ago? Because he built something successful and you didn't?" "He stole my dream," Lawrence said quietly. His mask had finally slipped. "That winery should have been mine. I had the vision, the connections, the business sense. Fred just had sentiment, tradition, and everyone treated him like a genius while I was forgotten. Do you know what that's like? Watching someone else succeed with your idea? So you decided to destroy it, and you were willing to turn my son into a murderer to do it. I gave him a choice." Lawrence's voice was cold now. "I offered him a solution to his problems. He accepted. Enthusiastically, I might add. Don't paint him as some innocent victim, Tammy. Spencer knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted this. I looked at my son, at the man who'd poisoned me, mocked me, planned to erase his father's legacy, and I saw not the monster I'd imagined, but something worse. A broken man who'd made terrible choices and would now pay for them." "You're right," I said softly. "He knew what he was doing, and now he has to face the consequences." Torres moved forward with handcuffs. "Spencer Rogers, you have the right to remain silent." As they led him away, Spencer finally met my eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Mom, I'm so sorry. The debts, I didn't know what else to do. I never meant for it to go this far." "But it did," I said, "and I can't forgive that, Spencer, no matter how much I want to." Holly was arrested next, then Lawrence. The conference room emptied slowly, board members filing out in shocked silence. Within 20 minutes, it was just Madeline, Patricia, Emily, and me. I sank into my chair as the adrenaline finally drained away. "You did it," Madeline said, her arm around my shoulders. "Mom, you did it." Had I? I'd exposed Spencer's crimes, saved the winery, protected Fred's legacy. But I'd also destroyed my son's life, sent him to prison, ended any chance we'd ever have a relationship again. "I did what I had to," I said. "That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt." Patricia squeezed my hand. "The treatment's already working. Your senses will start coming back. Maybe not completely, but enough. Enough to make wine again? Enough to remember why you loved it in the first place." Through the window, I could see the vineyard stretching toward the horizon. 40 years of work, of love, of sacrifice. Fred and I had built something worth protecting, even from our own son.